My sister took my college fund for her honeymoon. 5 years later, I became her landlord. I don't know how to describe the feeling of having your entire future stolen from you in a single swipe, but I guess the closest comparison is getting punched in the chest while someone calmly tells you to stop overreacting. Because that's basically what happened the day I opened my bank app and saw $0 in the account that was supposed to change my life. But let me tell you exactly how I found out, because it wasn't through my parents, or my sister, or an accidental conversation. No. I found out because my older sister posted a picture on Instagram, sipping champagne in first class, wearing oversized sunglasses and a robe she definitely did not pay for, with the caption, "Huge thank you to mom and dad for the honeymoon upgrade. We're flying first class, baby." I swear my soul left my body. I stared at that post for a solid 15 seconds before my brain finally screamed, "What upgrade? With what money?" Because unless my parents had won the lottery overnight, the only big chunk of money they had access to was the one thing I'd been building for years: my college fund. Let me back up for a second. Growing up, I was the quiet kid in the family. The responsible one. The one who saved her paychecks and skipped buying Starbucks so she could put $30 more into the account my parents helped me open when I was 15. The deal was simple. They would keep the account under their name for safety. I would keep depositing every dollar I earned from babysitting, working at the movie theater, and later my part-time job at a print shop. By 19, after years of saving and scholarships, I had just enough to attend the graphic design program I'd dreamed of since forever. I had been accepted. I had the email. I had my dorm number picked out. I had my deposit deadline in my calendar. I was supposed to pay it that morning. That exact morning. So yeah, when I logged in and saw $0, I thought the universe glitched. I refreshed my phone 5 times, logged out, logged back in, restarted the app, restarted my phone, tried on desktop, tried on my old phone. Nothing. Just that empty, mocking zero. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped my phone. I felt my throat closing, panic spiraling like someone flipped a switch. And then, the Instagram notification popped up. Madison posted a new photo. I clicked it and immediately wished I hadn't. Her in first class. Champagne flute. Private cabin. The caption, "Thanking our parents." My heart didn't just drop. It cracked. I knew deep down, instantly, what happened. But denial is a powerful thing, so I still called my mom. She answered, sounding completely normal, like she wasn't actively detonating my future. "Hey, sweetie, how's your morning?" My voice came out in a whisper. "Mom, where's my college money?" Silence. Long, heavy, guilty silence. Then, "Oh, sweetheart, we were going to talk to you tonight." I felt my knees go weak. "You didn't." She sighed like I was inconveniencing her. "Your sister's wedding was such a huge milestone, and the honeymoon they originally booked didn't work out because the resort overbooked. We had to help them." "We?" I repeated. "We? As in you used my money?" "It's a family account," she said, "and Madison's wedding only happens once, Emily. College can happen anytime." I swear something snapped in my chest. Actual steam felt like it was building behind my eyes. "Mom, that was my money. I earned that. I saved that. You're being dramatic," she cut in. "You're 19. You have plenty of time to rebuild. Your sister needed it more." "Needed it more?" I practically shouted. "For a honeymoon?" "It wasn't just the honeymoon," she said sharply. "It was flights, hotels, activities." "That is a honeymoon." I could hear drawers slamming on her end, like she was annoyed at me. "Stop yelling. I'm not having this argument. What's done is done." "What's done is you stole from me." "We didn't steal," she snapped. "We supported your sister's marriage. You'll thank us one day when it's your turn." I laughed, this horrible, shaky laugh that didn't sound like me. "There is no my turn. I can't even afford a semester now. You can stay home another year, work, save again. It builds character." I was shaking with so much anger and disbelief that I thought I'd be sick. "Put Dad on the phone," I said. "He's busy." "Put him?" Another heavy sigh, then muffled yelling as she tried to get his attention. Finally, my dad's voice came on, tired, annoyed, like I was the problem. "What's going on?" "Did you use my college fund?" I asked. He didn't even hesitate. "Yes. Madison needed help." Something inside me froze solid. "You knew what that money was for." "I also know you're adaptable," he said. "You're smart. You'll figure something out. Madison had her heart set on that trip, and we weren't going to let her start marriage stressed." "And screwing me over doesn't stress you out?" I whispered. He exhaled like he wanted to hang up. "Don't make this a big deal. It's done." I stood there in my tiny bedroom, staring at the wall, realizing in one horrifying moment that my family didn't see me as a person with a future. They saw me as a backup plan. A resource. The kid who would understand. The one who wouldn't fight back. I wasn't the favorite. I wasn't even considered. I was just there. Useful. Until I wasn't. And this awful, suffocating truth settled over me. My dream school was gone. My parents didn't care. My sister was drinking champagne with the money I earned. My entire life tilted sideways in that moment. And what came after? Well, let's just say losing everything was the best thing that ever happened to me. But I didn't know that yet. All I knew was that my future had been wiped clean, and I was suddenly forced to rebuild it from absolute zero. Alone? I didn't go numb. I didn't freeze. I didn't collapse dramatically on my bed like in the movies. I went very, very still. The kind of stillness that only happens when something inside you breaks in a quiet, permanent way, like a snapped wire you didn't even know was holding you together. Then I grabbed my keys, walked out of my apartment, and drove straight to my parents' house. I don't even remember half the drive. I just remember gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles went white, replaying their excuses in my head. You're adaptable. You're young. You'll understand one day. It's a family account. A family account that only ever took from one person. Me. When I pulled into the driveway, Madison's car was still parked there, the special edition SUV my parents helped her afford. I could see the balloons still taped up from the wedding. I could see my mom through the kitchen window, laughing while she washed dishes. Laughing. Like nothing had happened. I walked inside without knocking. The second I stepped into the kitchen, everything went silent. My mom turned and saw my face. Her smile disappeared. Emily, don't start. Bad choice of words. Where's Madison? I asked. Before she could answer, Madison walked in from the hallway, tan, glowing, gold bracelets shimmering, hair in a perfect messy bun, like she just stepped off a beach photo shoot. Oh my God, Em, she squealed, walking over to hug me. Did you see my honeymoon pics? The first-class ones? The champagne there is so good. She reached her arms out. I stepped back. Her smile faltered. What's your problem? My problem? I said quietly. You stole my college fund. She blinked. Once, twice, then laughed. Laughed. Is that what you're upset about? Emily, chill, you're 19, you'll earn it back. That money was my future, I said. My voice trembled. It took me years. She rolled her eyes. Don't be dramatic. You'll go to college eventually, but weddings happen once. Honeymoons happen once. It was important. It wasn't your money, I hissed. It was in the family account, she snapped back, crossing her arms. You put it there. You trusted mom and dad with it. It's not my fault they decided to share. You call that sharing? I asked, my voice rising. You drank my future in a champagne glass. Madison scoffed. Oh, please, you're acting like you're dying. You're fine. You're living at home. I don't live here anymore. That made her freeze. What? I looked between her and our parents. Remember? I moved out because you guys needed my room for wedding guests and told me it was a good time to learn independence? Mom looked away. Oh, Madison said. Right. Right. Like it was nothing. My dad walked in just then, drying his hands on a towel. Emily, you're making a scene. Good, I snapped. Maybe you'll actually listen. Madison folded her arms tighter. You're being ungrateful. Ungrateful. I felt something inside me ignite. Ungrateful? I repeated. For what? For being robbed? For being second place in a family I've spent my entire life sacrificing for? Mom inhaled sharply. Emily Harper, enough. Oh, now last names matter? I shot back. Funny, because when it was my money, suddenly ownership didn't matter at all. Dad pinched the bridge of his nose. You are blowing this way out of proportion. I stepped closer to them, shaking not from fear, but fury. I lost my college acceptance today. I lost my chance to move out of state. I lost everything I worked for. And all you have to say is I'm dramatic? Emily, Dad said warningly, watch your tone. No, I said, I'm done watching anything. I'm done letting you tell me how to feel about the things you did. Madison sighed loudly. You're seriously acting like I murdered someone. It was a honeymoon upgrade, not a crime. It is theft, I yelled. And you knew it. You knew exactly whose money that was. I thought Mom and Dad would replace it for you, she said with a shrug. They aren't replacing anything, I snapped. Madison shrugged again, careless, bored, entitled. Then save again. You're good with money. You'll figure it out. My hands curled into fists. Do you hear yourself? I said. You ruined my future because you wanted fancy pictures for Instagram. Mom stepped in between us. Girls, stop, this is childish. Childish? I whispered. I'm trying to build a life. She's trying to build a scrapbook. Madison's eyes narrowed. You're jealous. I froze. She smirked. You couldn't afford any of that stuff anyway, she said. So why not let someone who can appreciate it enjoy it? There are moments in life when you realize something you can never unrealize, a truth that rearranges your entire understanding of the people standing in front of you. That was my moment. Because for the first time, I saw my family clearly not as the people I wanted them to be, but as they actually were. My parents favored the loud, shiny, difficult daughter. And I was the reliable shadow in the background, expected to endure everything quietly. I stepped back, taking a deep breath so I wouldn't scream. You know what? I said slowly. Thank you. Madison raised an eyebrow. For what? For showing me exactly where I stand. I said, and for giving me the push I needed. Mom looked confused. Push for what? To stop depending on any of you ever again. I grabbed my keys and turned toward the door. Where are you going? Dad asked. I didn't look back. To rebuild my life, I said, and this time it won't be in your name, or your account, or your control. I opened the door, looked at them one last time, and said, you won't get another penny, or another chance. And I left. I didn't cry until I got inside my car. But even while crying, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Freedom. I didn't know how I'd rebuild, or how long it would take. But I knew one thing with absolute certainty. I would never let my family decide my future again. And someday, they'd regret that they ever underestimated me. I didn't magically become a stronger person overnight. I didn't walk out of my parents' house and suddenly become some girl boss icon with a perfect 5-year plan. No. I walked out shaking, crying, heartbroken in a way that felt physical, like something inside my ribs had been crushed and I had to keep breathing around the broken pieces. I drove back to my crappy $580 a month studio, sat on the squeaky mattress, I called a bed, and stared at my reflection in the microwave door because I didn't have a mirror. My eyes were puffy. My cheeks were streaked with tears. My whole life felt like someone had poured gasoline on it and lit a match. But when I looked at myself, really looked, I saw something new. Anger, yes. Betrayal, yes. But beneath that, a spark. The kind of spark that happens when someone pushes you so far down that the only direction left to go is up. That night, I cried until my face hurt. Then I washed it. Then I went to work the next morning. Because bills don't care about heartbreak. My print shop shift started at 8 a.m., and I walked in dead inside. My coworker Jason, who was always annoyingly cheerful, took one look at me and said, "Damn, who died?" "My college fund," I muttered. He whistled, rough. I didn't tell him everything, but I told him enough. He shook his head and said the words that would end up changing the entire trajectory of my life. Then make your own future, one they can't touch. Easy to say. Not easy to do. But I clung to that sentence like a lifeline. For the next few months, I worked 2 jobs days at the print shop, nights cleaning offices. I slept maybe 5 hours a night. I ate ramen and peanut butter sandwiches. My phone was 3 updates behind. My car shook when I braked too hard. I wasn't thriving. I was surviving. But every time I wanted to give up, I remembered Madison laughing. Relax. You're young. You'll recover. Recover. Fine, I'd recover. Just not in the way she imagined. It started small. I got into YouTube videos about side hustles and financial independence. Not the scammy ones, actual channels run by normal people. People talking about budgeting and credit scores and saving strategies. One night after my cleaning shift, an autoplay video started about real estate. I almost skipped it. Who the hell was I to even think about buying property? But the guy was young. Normal looking. He explained things like he was talking to a friend. You don't need to be rich, he said. You need discipline, a plan, and the ability to say no to things that don't matter. I stared at the screen. I can say no. I'd been saying no my entire life. I watched another video. And another. And another. Suddenly, it was 2 a.m. I went to bed with a buzzing in my brain. Not fear. Not hopelessness. Possibility. Over the next year, that possibility turned into obsession. On breaks at work, I'd read articles about FHA loans. On lunch, I'd practice analyzing fake rental listings. On weekends, I'd walk through open houses pretending I was just curious. I didn't tell anyone. Not a friend. Not a coworker. Definitely not my family. Because this wasn't their dream anymore. It was mine. And I wasn't letting anyone steal it again. By the time I turned 21, my credit had improved. My savings grew. I took on small graphic design gigs for local businesses, logos, menu layouts, posters, and every extra dollar went straight into my escape fund. At 22, my car finally died. I cried for an hour, then bought a used one in cash. At 23, I saw it. A duplex. Kind of ugly. Weeds everywhere. Kitchen stuck in 1998. But the price? The neighborhood? The rental potential? I felt it in my bones. I ran the numbers 20 times. I walked through it twice. I went home and stared at the ceiling all night. And the next morning, I applied for the loan. I got approved. I held the keys in my hand and sobbed in the empty living room, ugly sobbing, the kind that makes your chest hurt, because for the first time, something was mine. Not borrowed. Not shared. Not controlled by my parents. Mine. I moved into the smaller unit and rented the bigger one to a college couple. My rent? Almost nothing. And when I sent my first rent received notification email, I felt a satisfaction that I can't even put into words. It wasn't about money. It was about power. The good kind, the kind that comes from building yourself from scratch. I didn't know then that this duplex, this little building I bought after losing everything, would eventually become the stage for the biggest twist of my life. Because 5 years after my sister stole my future, she would walk right into it without knowing I was the one holding the keys. But that part? That came later. For now, all I knew was one thing. I wasn't the family doormat anymore. I wasn't second place. I wasn't the girl who got walked all over. I was rebuilding something stronger than they ever imagined. A life they couldn't touch. The craziest thing about life is how quietly karma works. It doesn't show up with fireworks. It doesn't announce itself. It just waits, silently, patiently, and then strikes at the most poetic moment possible. For me, karma arrived on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon, 5 years after my life fell apart. I was 24, standing in the kitchen of my duplex, painting cabinet doors because I couldn't afford to hire someone, when my property manager, Lisa, called me. She never called. She only emailed. So, I picked up immediately. "Emily," she said, sounding tense, "you're going to want to hear this." "What's wrong?" I asked, wiping paint off my arm. "We've got a new rental application for Unit B." "Great," I said. "Did they pass the income requirements?" "Oh, they did," she said. "Barely. They're in a tight spot. A business failure. Heavy debt. Eviction risk." My stomach nodded. "Do we know who they are?" Lisa hesitated. A long, loaded hesitation. I felt my skin prickle. "Lisa? Who applied?" She exhaled sharply. "Madison Clark." I dropped the paintbrush. It clattered across the floor, leaving a long streak of white. "No," I whispered. "Yes," she said quietly. "Your sister. And her husband." Everything inside me went silent, like someone hit the mute button on my entire body. I walked to the living room on shaking legs, staring blankly at the wall. Madison. Madison, whose first-class honeymoon I unwillingly paid for. Madison, who told me to relax and recover. Madison, who laughed at my dreams. Who lived in a house paid for by our parents. Who posted motivational quotes about gratitude while stealing the one thing I worked for. Now she was broke. Evicted. And looking for a rental? My rental. I couldn't even speak. After what felt like a full minute, I finally managed to say, "You're sure it's her?" Lisa hummed. "Same name, same driver's license picture, same birthday, same husband listed. They toured the property today." I pressed a hand to my chest because my heartbeat was pounding so hard it hurt. "She toured it?" I asked weakly. "Yep, didn't know you owned it, of course. The management company name threw her off." She paused. "Emily, what do you want me to do? Deny it? Approve it? Ignore it?" I sank onto my couch, suddenly ice cold. Images of one 9-year-old me flashed through my mind. Me screaming. My parents dismissing me. Madison laughing. My dreams collapsing. And then the version of me now. Living in my own building. Self-made. Stable. Independent. Everything I built without them. Part of me wanted to deny her application just for the satisfaction. Part of me wanted to approve it just to watch karma do its thing. But most of me was just stunned. Like the universe was waiting 5 years to hand me this moment. "Emily?" Lisa asked gently. "What do you want me to tell her?" I closed my eyes and breathed slowly, one deep inhale, one steady exhale, like I was grounding myself before a life-changing decision. "Process the application like normal," I said. "Don't tell her anything. You got it." "And Lisa?" "Yeah? If she meets the criteria, approve it." Lisa paused again. "You sure?" "I'm sure," I said. But I didn't tell her why. Because something inside me wanted this moment not to sabotage my sister, not to get revenge, but to finally see the scales balance. To have my dignity handed back to me by fate itself. Lisa cleared her throat. "She wants to sign in person, by the way. She and her husband prefer face-to-face." My pulse jumped. Face-to-face? Yeah, they're old-fashioned. Or desperate. Hard to tell which. I stared at the ceiling, everything spinning like a slow-motion tornado. "Schedule it," I said. "I'll be there." I hung up and stared at my reflection in the dark window. 5 years ago, I was the powerless one, the girl whose dreams were disposable, the kid everyone assumed would understand. Now I had something they didn't know I had. Power. Not the cruel kind. Not the petty kind. The quiet kind. The kind that comes from truth. From growth. From survival. Because in 2 days, my sister would sit across from me. Desperate. Broke. Needing a home. And for the first time in our entire lives, she would need something from me. The universe doesn't forget. It just waits for the perfect moment. And mine was coming in 48 hours. The 2 days leading up to the lease signing felt unreal, like I was living in a dream that could turn into a nightmare at any second. Part of me kept thinking Madison would magically find another apartment. Or her credit would get denied. Or she'd somehow figure out I owned the building and run for the hills out of pure ego. But no. Every update from Lisa confirmed it. My sister and her husband were serious. They wanted the unit. They were ready to sign. I didn't sleep the night before. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, replaying what I would say, how I would look, how she might react. Would she laugh? Cry? Pretend not to know me? Demand I give her a discount? Storm out? I had no idea. All I knew was this wasn't revenge. This wasn't payback. This was closure served cold on a lease agreement. The morning of the signing, I dressed simply, jeans, a gray sweater, hair in a low bun, nothing fancy, nothing flashy, the opposite of everything Madison lived for. I drove to the property management office early and waited in one of the glass-walled conference rooms. My hands were sweating, my foot tapping uncontrollably against the tile floor. At 3:09 p.m., I heard the front door open. Her voice hit me first. Bright. Entitled. Tired at the edges, like life had sanded her down. "Oh, we're here for the 3:15 appointment for the duplex rental," she told the receptionist. "Madison Clark." I closed my eyes and waited. Footsteps. 2 sets. The door handle clicked. When it opened, Madison walked in first, still gorgeous, still polished, but something was different. A strain around her eyes, a tightness in her jaw. Her husband trailed behind her, shoulders slumped, defeated. She was talking as she entered, not looking up yet. "We just really hope this works out. Everything in this city is so unfairly expensive." Then she saw me. She froze mid-step. Completely froze. Her eyes widened, mouth hanging open, her brain clearly glitching. "Emily?" "Hi, Madison," I said softly. For the first time since childhood, she had no comeback, no sarcastic quip, no fake laugh. Just silence. Lisa stepped in behind her, oblivious to the emotional earthquake happening. "Madison, this is the property owner, Emily Harper," she said proudly. "She'll be finalizing the lease with you today." Madison stared at me like I'd grown a second head. Her husband blinked. "You own this building?" "Yes," I said quietly, "for almost 2 years now." Madison swallowed hard. I could practically see her scrambling, trying to calculate how the girl she once laughed at, once pitied, once stomped on was sitting across from her as the landlord of her last resort. She finally managed. This is your place?" I nodded. "It is." She sat down slowly, like her knees might give out. Her husband followed, confused but aware something big was happening. Lisa placed the lease packet on the table. "All right, if we're ready, you can go ahead and sign." "No," Madison blurted, eyes darting between us. "Wait, I need a second." She turned to me. "Emily, did you know? Did you do this on purpose?" Her voice was small, raw. Nothing like the invincible sister I grew up with. "I didn't orchestrate it," I said. "You applied. You toured the unit. You wanted this place. I just approved it." She stared at her hands. "Why?" "Because you needed a home," I said honestly, "and I'm not going to ruin someone's life just because mine was ruined once." Her eyes lifted watery, disbelieving. "You're not angry?" I gave a breathy laugh. "Oh, I'm angry. I'll probably always be a little angry, but I'm not here to punish you. Life already did that." Her husband flinched. And then Madison whispered the words I never thought I'd hear. "I'm sorry." Not defensive. Not snarky. Not performative. Real. She blinked away a tear. "I was awful to you. I stole from you. I acted like your dreams didn't matter, and I paid for it. I really did." Something in my chest unclenched. For 5 years, I thought I needed revenge to feel healed. But sitting there, listening to her cracked voice, watching her swallow her pride, I realized I didn't need to hurt her back. I just needed this moment. Madison looked down at the lease. "Do you still want us here? You could reject us. We'd have nowhere else to go." I slid the lease toward her, steady and calm. "Madison," I said softly, "college doesn't happen once, but karma does." She let out a broken laugh. "I deserved that." Then she picked up the pen. Her hand shook as she signed her name. I countersigned. Just like that, she became my tenant. When the paperwork was done, Lisa left to make copies. Madison lingered, staring at me with this strange combination of guilt, fear, and something like awe. "Emily, how did you do this?" she whispered. "How did you get here?" For the first time in our lives, I answered her honestly. "I built something no one could take from me." She nodded slowly, wiping a tear. Then she stood and walked out with her husband, defeated but somehow lighter. And I realized something important. Closure doesn't always look like revenge. Sometimes it looks like choosing peace even when no one chose it for you. I stayed in the empty conference room for a minute afterward, breathing deeply, letting the weight of the moment settle. 5 years ago, she drank champagne with the money I saved for my future. Now, I was handing her a home, in a future I built myself. Not for her, for me. And it was only the beginning of what I would accomplish. The first week with Madison living in my duplex felt like the universe was playing some kind of twisted sitcom. I'd hear her voice through the thin walls, muffled arguments, tense whispers, her husband pacing at night. They were stressed, scared, human in a way I'd never seen before. One afternoon, I found Madison sitting on the front steps of the building, knees pulled to her chest. When she saw me walking up the path with groceries, she straightened like she'd been caught crying, which she probably had. "Hey," she said, voice soft. "Hey," I answered. She hesitated like she wasn't sure if she was allowed to speak to me. "Can I ask you something?" she said finally. I nodded. She looked down at her hands. "Why did you approve us? Honestly, why didn't you just reject the application? I mean, after everything I did to you." I shifted the grocery bag in my arm. "Because I'm not interested in punishing you. Life already did that." She blinked, startled. "You're not curious how we ended up like this?" I shrugged. "Only if you want to tell me." She swallowed hard and stared out at the street. "We trusted the wrong people," she said. "Put our savings into a business partner who ran off with the money. Lost our house, our jobs, everything." Her voice cracked. "And I thought Mom and Dad would help again, but they said they couldn't, or maybe wouldn't. I don't even know anymore." Hearing her say that stirred something in me, not triumph, not gloating, just sadness. "They haven't helped me in 5 years," I said quietly. She nodded like she already guessed that. After a long pause, she whispered, "Emily, I was awful to you." I didn't deny it. "I don't expect forgiveness," she continued. I wish I could go back and slap myself for how I treated you." I felt something loosen in my chest like a knot slowly unraveling. "People change," I said softly. She laughed bitterly. "We don't usually change until life forces us to." We sat in silence for a moment, two sisters who never really got to be sisters. And then Madison surprised me. "Can I ask another thing?" she said hesitantly. "How did you do it? How did you get here? You were 19, broke, and basically abandoned by all of us. And now you're this." She gestured around at the duplex. I exhaled slowly. "I decided to build a life no one could touch," I said. "One that wasn't controlled by Mom or Dad or you. I just refused to stay the version of me you guys expected." Madison wiped her cheek. "And you did. You really did." Her vulnerability made me feel something I didn't expect. Pity. Respect. And maybe the first tiny seed of forgiveness. The next weekend, my parents showed up unannounced. They knocked on my door like they still had ownership over my life. When I answered, Mom crossed her arms immediately. "So," she said sharply, "your sister tells me you're her landlord." I leaned against the doorframe. "Yep, I am." Dad frowned. "Why didn't you tell us you bought property?" "I stopped updating you on my life when you stopped caring about it," I said calmly. Mom's face tightened. "So this is revenge? Making your sister rent from you?" I laughed, not meanly, but honestly. "No, revenge would have been denying her application, charging double, kicking her out. I didn't do any of that." Dad snapped. "You're humiliating her." "Like you humiliated me?" I asked evenly. "You took my future and handed it to her. And when it blew up in your faces, you expected me to what? Fix it? Pretend it never happened?" Mom opened her mouth, but I kept going. "I'm not your scapegoat. I'm not the backup plan. I'm not the understanding kid anymore. I'm just Emily, and I take care of myself now." Dad's jaw clenched. "We did what we thought was best." I met his eyes. "No, you did what was easiest." Silence. Mom looked like she wanted to argue but couldn't find the words. Finally, she said, "Are you really going to hold a grudge forever?" "No," I said. "I'm going to set boundaries forever." They left without another word. And for the first time in my life, I didn't care if they approved of me. A few nights later, Madison knocked on my door. She held a small envelope. "What's this?" I asked. She took a shaky breath. "Some of the money I owe you, or what I can afford right now. It's not much, but I don't feel right owing you." My throat tightened. I opened the envelope. $20, crumpled. Madison's eyes filled with tears. "It's stupid. It's nothing. I know that, but it's a start, and I want to keep trying." I put the envelope down gently. "Madison," I said, "you don't owe me money. You owe me honesty, and I think you've started paying that back." She broke down crying, quiet, exhausted, cathartic tears. And for the first time since we were kids, I hugged her back. Not because she deserved forgiveness, but because I deserved peace. Months passed. I focused on my work, my savings, my future. And one sunny morning, I signed the lease for a small studio downtown, big windows, creaky floors, paint-splattered walls, perfect. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine. On the glass door, I placed the sticker I'd ordered. Emily Harper Graphic Design Studio, owner. I stood there in the doorway, sunlight warming my shoulders, feeling something I hadn't felt since before my family ever hurt me. Pride. Hope. Freedom. And I realized something I wish 19-year-old me had known. They stole my money. But they didn't steal my future. I built that myself. One painful day at a time. One lesson at a time. One quiet victory at a time. And now? I wasn't just the girl they underestimated. I was the woman they never saw coming.